las culturas pueden ser fuente de paz y el diálogo entre religiones puede ser también fuente de paz. Es decir, seguir las religiones, llamar a los seguidores de religiones para que usemos nuestras religiones como medio para construir la paz.
UN Geneva Nuncio Fortunatus Nwachukwu said this on May 9th in Malaga, Spain, during the expert meeting Action Plan for Intercultural and Interfaith Engagement as a Trigger for Conflict Prevention and Peacebuilding. We spoke to the Archbishop about this in a previous edition of the EWTN TV UN blog. The event brought together representatives of the Holy See and the World Islamic League, representatives of the World Jewish Congress and others to launch a process of interfaith dialogue under the auspices of the UN for the three monotheistic religions. My guest today is Dr. Leon Saltier, the representative of the World Jewish Congress to the United Nations in Geneva, who was also present in Malaga, on the role of his religion in conflict prevention and the importance of the Shoah, the Holocaust, in context with interfaith dialogue. Jewish Moral Voices, now here on EWTN TV UN blog. I'm joined now in Geneva by Dr. Leon Saltier of the World Jewish Congress. Good afternoon, Dr. Saltier.
Good afternoon, Christian.
You participated in the meeting in Malaga, Spain, a few weeks ago. The theme, Preventing Conflict and Promoting Peace, was related to interfaith and religious issues. I asked the representative of the Holy See, Archbishop Fortunatus Nwachukwu, the same question, namely, in relation to the Ukraine conflict, the intercultural and interreligious efforts obviously could not prevent the disaster, failed therefore.
Thank you for this question. Indeed, we were in Malaga not long ago, representatives of the three monotheistic Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, had the honor to represent there the World Jewish Congress together with the Holy See and the Muslim World League. And indeed, we try to see how we can use interfaith dialogue as a way, as a vehicle to stop conflict. And you're right to say that Ukraine is a failure for us. We were not able to prevent it. But not only Ukraine, we have conflicts all around the world today. So that's a reason why we came together. We came together because of the conflicts around the world, because of the power of religious leaders and of moral voices to speak up against war, against conflict, against aggression, in support of peace, brotherhood and reconciliation. And as a follow-up to this important Malaga conference, we are now planning follow-up activities, including a plan of action to reinforce interfaith dialogue as a way to indeed stop conflicts like Ukraine from happening again in the future.
Briefly, something about our guest. Dr. Leon Saltiel is a representative to the United Nations in Geneva and to UNESCO, as well as coordinator for combating anti-Semitism at the World Jewish Congress. His publications include The Holocaust in Thessaloniki, Reactions to the Anti-Jewish Persecution, which won the 2021 Yad Vashem International Book Prize for Holocaust Research, and Do Not Forget Me, about three Jewish mothers writing to their sons from the ghetto in Thessaloniki. In May, the German Federal Ministry of the Interior announced in Berlin that the number of anti-Semitic crimes reached a new high last year. 3,027 anti-Semitic crimes, attacks on Jews. What is the connection of the Holocaust in the context of interfaith dialogue?
Indeed, Christian, I believe personally, and the World Jewish Congress believes, that that the lessons of the Holocaust are very pertinent. I myself am the descendant of Holocaust survivors. My grandparents all were in Greece, my native country of Thessaloniki, my native city of Thessaloniki during the Second World War, and they were hiding during the Holocaust. So I focused my academic career in trying to investigate what was happening in Greece during that period, and this is where I focused my PhD on and published my books. So for me and for the Jewish people, the lessons of the Holocaust are of primary importance. We saw also a failure of states and of, let me say, of religious leaders at the time to prevent the Holocaust, which led to the genocide of 6 million Jews in Europe, led to the Roma genocide, but also to millions of deaths of others, but also a total of around 40 million dead all over Europe. So the Jews may have been the target, but the whole of the continent suffered from the Nazi aggression and the Nazi ideology. So for us, it's important to get the lessons of the Holocaust, to be able to be alert in the face of aggression and hostility, to respond whenever such things happen, to prevent genocide from the future, to educate the new generations, and to create a world where minorities are protected and respected, nobody's scapegoated, there is no more anti-Semitism or racism targeting any community, and we believe that interfaith dialogue is an important vehicle to achieve that. So in Malaga, I stressed the rise of anti-Semitism that we're facing in these days. Unfortunately, around 75 to 80 years after the Holocaust, we still see a rise of anti-Semitism. We saw it with the latest now, the COVID pandemic, where conspiracy myths accusing the Jews of having created the virus or profiting from the virus were seen all over the press and the social media. We also have seen a lot of protests, including in Germany, of people yelling, wearing a yellow star as a way to protest the confinement measures, a phenomenon that we call Holocaust trivialization, of using the images of the Holocaust for current political affairs, but as a consequence, you trivialize and you reduce its significance. So for us, it's important that religious leaders stand up for historical truth, for accuracy, for genocide prevention, for the protection of minorities, and in that way we can build a better world.
The World Jewish Congress strives, among other things, to promote, support and participate in interfaith dialogue. Now, interfaith understanding may work among religious people, but don't we have a challenge, if not a problem, getting that message across to those who are not religious at all?
It's a good question, Christian, and indeed we have seen trends in Europe and the Western world of decreasing, let's say, religiosity or attendance of place of worship among the citizens. So your question is very legitimate. I believe that religion is beyond the confinements of, let's say, the faithful. I believe, first of all, religion has existed in Europe for thousands of years, and actually we speak about the Judeo-Christian culture and civilization, which implies that Judaism and Christianity are on the basis of the Western civilization. By that I try to say that religion is beyond just for the faithful. It's a culture, brings moral values, brings a moral compass, brings ethics, inspires people, motivates people. So even if you're not religious, you're affected by religion. You participate in religious festivals. You participate in Christmas or Pesach or the Iftar. So in that way, religion has so much more than just, let's say, the mere connection with the divine or the set of codes that, as are presented in the Bible, for example. So we use religion as a moral voice, and that's why we work with religious leaders from Christianity and Islam, but not only, as a way to bring these moral voices together, to raise awareness of the citizens. And also, Christian, you know, it's important to show a sign of solidarity. People think that religion is a zero-sum game, meaning it's only related to the followers of a particular flock. We believe that if religious leaders are seen together, talking to one another, and the people, the ordinary people in the street see that, this can also go down to the grassroots level. The more we talk at the, let's say, at the top level, the more the people on the ground are inspired. And the more the local bishop, the local rabbi, and the local imam can also replicate these dialogues. So, for example, the Malaga conference was not to stay only at the top level. The Malaga conference, we would like it also to go to the grassroots level, to show to every community that people of faith, that religious leaders, that people of moral values can also talk to the local level and to discuss the issues that the community and the neighborhood and the city need to address.
What do you, your organization, say about Pope Francis' interfaith efforts?
Indeed, we value a lot Pope Francis, an individual of a great moral standing that we have been working together for many years since he became the Pope of the Catholic Church. And we also see him as transcending his role as head of the Catholic Church. We see him as a leader that goes beyond the framework of the Catholic Church and places him as a leader on the world stage. And his message of coexistence, of brotherhood of all people, of dialogue, of addressing issues of the past and bringing people together it's a very important message that we also share as the as the World Jewish Congress and the Jewish community. And we are working with him to indeed build bridges, create spaces for dialogue, build reconciliation and understanding among different peoples. In that space, I cannot reiterate again the importance of Pope Francis's efforts, his important leadership, and how he is helping drive this very important agenda forward.
Dr. Saltiel, to conclude this first part of our interview, briefly, something about your efforts, especially at the UN in Geneva, to create an interfaith space.
As I say, the World Jewish Congress has been working on interfaith for a long time. And here in Geneva, it's one of the centers of our activity, in particular because it's the basis, is the headquarters of the UN Human Rights Council, which is the UN's primary organ dealing with human rights, but also because we have the headquarters of important religious organizations, like, for example, the World Council of Churches. So we engage with all of them, either bilaterally or multilaterally, and we try to build spaces of cooperation, understanding, and also, as I said before, to show to the world that we are talking to one another. So, for example, during the COVID pandemic, when it started, we produced a joint paper with the World Council of Churches about the ethical arrangements around the COVID vaccination. So we, Jewish and Christian leaders, came forward to ask for, to stress the importance of vaccines as a way of saving lives, but also addressing the inequalities that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic, the rise of hate speech against minority groups and other related issues. And this paper was very well received, and we also, it's our intention to continue this dialogue with the World Council of Churches on these things. Similarly, with the Muslim World League, I had the honor to deliver the first ever joint statement before the UN Human Rights Council of a major Muslim and Jewish group, where we pledged before the UN our intentions of working together in the spirit of brotherhood and friendship to address the world's challenges of today and to try to build a common understanding between the different peoples. And this was also very well received. It was, I believe, a milestone in interfaith cooperation involving the UN as well. And my intention is to try and see whether we can repeat this statement again this year, but also enlarging it by including also Christian churches on board. So that's something that I want to work on. And again, this is all in the framework of the Malaga conference, and this could be a very appropriate follow-up. And I believe that also the Malaga conference, which is important to note, was under UN auspices. It's the first time that UN institutions brought these faiths together in this conference, is also, I want to believe, a follow-up to events that we already have done, the Catholic Church, the World Jewish Congress, other actors here in Geneva, of trying to bring everybody together.
Next week, the second part of my interview with Dr. Saltiel, then it is about the word anti-Semitism, which should be replaced by the term Jew hatred, and whether demonizing the state of Israel is tantamount to Jew hatred. Earlier this month, Pope Francis told members of the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue that there's always a choice in crisis and conflicts. He quoted from his encyclical Fratelli Tutti. Some try to escape reality by withdrawing into privacy. Others meet it with destructive violence. But between selfish indifference and violent protest, he said, there is an option that is always possible: dialogue.